Welcome to the second part of this three-part series in creating your portfolio using Studio. So in the first part, we introduced what Studio is and how to navigate around the interface and to style elements. So we just kind of gave a nice overview and introduction of what Studio is to help you out. But in this second part, we're actually going to jump into creating these pages. We're going to create the Works page, About, and Contact. So we'll jump into a fresh new blank template and show you how to design these elements from top to bottom and start to lay out your portfolio. So we're logged into Studio again, and from here we can choose to create a new project here, and we have a number of templates that we can use, but for this case we're just going to start with a blank site, and then we can give this project a name. I like to name this, especially for my portfolio, Caleb Kingston's portfolio. So you can do the same thing, adding your name. And then we'll click Create here. Now we're in Studio and we can begin to lay out our elements. And one way I like to do this is from top to bottom and actually adding the elements before I style and lay them out. So I'll show you what I mean here. To get started with our site, you'll notice that we have page 1 with a path number 1. So the first thing we want to do here is change this page type. I know the very first page that I'm working with is going to be a home page. So I'm going to change the type here to the home page type. And then I'll change the page name to Works because our home page is going to be the same as Works. And we can actually see what that looks like if we open up this tab right here. We have our name, Works, About, Contact, and then we have some elements down here. Now let's begin to lay out our elements here, starting with the navigation. So to create the navigation, we can just drag a box right here to the top of our page. And let's just extend that out to make this 100% here. And then we can start to add our elements. So we can drag and drop a text box here. And in this case, I'll just name this Caleb Kingston. And that's going to be the name of our site. And then we can click and drag other text elements here. And we can do this 3 times for our navigation menu. And here we want to just change the text here to Works, About, Contact. And we're not worrying about spacing or grouping. We're just going to add the elements right now. So the next thing we want to do is add some icons. So we can drag and drop an icon here. And when I do that, I can expand the settings panel here by clicking on this icon, or I can do so here to get to my settings. And this is where I can click on this icon thumbnail here and access all of material icons or font awesome icons. So in this case, I want an icon for Twitter. And you'll notice I don't have any for material icons, but I do have one for font awesome that I can use. I'm going to drag in another one. And we're going to find one for Instagram. So we can change that here. And the last one here is for Dribble. So we're going to go into the settings again, do a search for Dribble, and we'll find that as well. So we have all of the contents here for our navigation, but now we want to do some grouping and spacing to make sure everything works good. So the first thing we do is we can select this box here and we can start to distribute things, pin them to the left, the center, the right, or just evenly distribute from the edges here. And so we can do that, but now we have our content hitting the edges. So the next thing we want to do with this box is just add some padding. So we'll click this lock to lock between the left and the right. We can add 42 pixels of padding here just to give it a little bit of space. And the next thing we want to do is group some content together. So I can select these 3 pieces of text here by holding down Shift and clicking. And then I can either right click and choose Create Group or just use the keyboard shortcut Command G or Control G. As soon as I do that, these are grouped together. Same thing with our icons here. Holding down Shift, we can select them and then just hit Command G or Control G. Now there's a few ways I can add spacing to elements like this. I can just drag the size of this group here. I can drag that to 100, for example, and then distribute these evenly, which looks really good. Or another way with this text is selecting the text elements itself, going into our box properties and changing the margin to be 20 pixels, for example. And that's another way to add spacing. Now I'll click Escape to jump up one layer to this group. And so I can select this group and hold down Shift and select my name here to group these together, Command G or Control G. And so this is grouped together as well, but I want to select my name here and just add a little bit of margin here, maybe 40 pixels. So if we back up, we have all of our spacing correct. We just need to style our text now. So we can select all the text here, or we can go into the layers panel. Sometimes that's a little bit easier for selection. So I can just hold down shift and select all of these elements here. And we're going to change the font to Playfair Display. If you don't have any fonts here, you can click plus, and you'll be able to access thousands of Google fonts here, all the fonts that Google has. And so these will be royalty-free fonts that you can use in your published design. I like this serif font here, Playfair Display, so we'll go ahead and select that. And then again, I'll close this up and open up the layers panel again. I can just select these three text elements, and we'll just bring the size down to 14. And the last thing I think I want to do is just add a little bit more weight here to my name. So we'll change that. And then for the navigation box, we want to change the fill to this solid white. So now let's back up, see how everything looks. I think it's styled really good. And then we can position this navigation to stay fixed at the top of our screen as other elements scroll up and down. And the way that we do that here, if we go over into the position, we can have this fixed on the screen instead of relative to the other elements. So that's how we're going to get that to stay fixed on the screen. Now that we've done all this work, we can easily turn this into a symbol where we can reuse this on other pages in the future, which is very nice. And if we change our navigation, let's say we have other pages we want to add in the navigation, then we can change that once and it'll change everywhere that that symbol is being used. So it's a very powerful tool. If I right click here, I can choose Create Symbol. I can give this symbol a name and go ahead and click Create. And then if we expand this Add Elements panel right here, you'll notice we have different categories here, but if I choose Symbols, this is where we're going to see this navigation symbol where we can drag and drop this on other pages and reuse it. Now, coming back to our example here, you can see that we've gotten pretty similar results here, but we want to add a few more sections. And so the first section is just going to be this title right here. So because I know I'm going to use this text, I'm just going to copy this here. And now let's jump back into our design. So now we can add a box to our design here. So I'll just drag and drop here to add this box, and then we can resize this. So I'm just going to resize it a little bit here. I'm going to make this 100% width. And then for the height, let's try 460 pixels here. And we want the fill to be white, so we're going to change that to white here and just drag some text here on the very left side. Now I can double click and paste that text, that same text we were using before. It pastes the text but not the styling or the properties. So here's where we can access our fonts and our text properties. So again, I like this Playfair Display. We're going to align this to the left. And let's give this a size of, let's say 40 pixels here. So we can always resize our browser just to see how things look here. And in the third video, we're going to show how to adapt our design to different screen sizes. But let's go back into just the laptop view here. And there are a few ways that we can space things out. We can select the box itself and set the padding over here to, let's say, be 150 pixels. And then we can set the padding on the left side to be, let's say, 150 pixels like this, just to give it a little bit of spacing. Or we can do that at the content level itself. So with this text, let's say we want to go into the box properties here, we can actually add margin here on the left side. And we'll just set 100 pixels here. So that looks good as well. For the width, you can see that it's auto, so as we resize, it's going to change like so. But in this case, let's say that we want the width to change from auto to pixel, and we can just make this 540. Just give this a little bit more of a fixed width. And right now we do have this pinned to the center left, but we can drag this here right to the corner, and that way it can sit closer to the next section. But again, we can select this box here. We can give it a little bit of padding. So in this case, maybe 80 pixels, just to have this sit just 80 pixels above this bottom part of the box. Now the next section we're going to be designing is the photos of our work themselves. And now right below this section, we're going to add a new box. And so we can add that here. We'll change the fill color to white. You can also make it transparent because the background's white, but in this case, I'll just choose the fill color to be white. And then again, we'll expand this to be 100%. And then we want this height to actually be auto, meaning it'll flex to contain the elements inside of it, but we can't do that until we have elements contained inside of it. So in this case, if we go to pixel here, we can see auto's grayed out. So that's okay. I'll just stretch this out a little bit here, and we can change that later. So now if we go back into our template, we want to create these portfolio images. So we can jump back into our design here, just drag and drop an image and 2 pieces of text. And then from here, we can actually hold down Shift and we'll select all of the elements here. And I want to right click and group selection so everything here is contained in a group. Now I want this group to actually be a 50% width, so we're going to change this to percent and change this to 50. And then the elements inside of here, we're going to select all of them, and we want this to be 100% of this group. There we go. If we only select the image itself, we want the height to be 360 pixels. So we're starting to lay things out and design and style this. So now I want to take all of the containing elements, so we'll select the group itself, clicking escape on our keyboard. We'll select this group, and now we can choose where we want to align these elements. So in this case, we'll align it to the left, but because this text is 100% width, we can select this here and shift select this here. And we'll choose align left. And then if we go into our box properties here, for this left margin here, we want to just give it a little bit of spacing. So we'll just apply 16 pixels here to the left. And then let's set some other spacing. We're going to click on our image here and add a 16 pixel margin here just to give it a little bit of spacing. Then let's change the title here. We're going to change this to the Playfair display, give it a nice heavy weight of 700. And then for our subtitle below, let's make this 16 pixels. And then if we hit escape again, just to select the group, I want to apply a padding right here at the bottom, left and right. So we can come in here and we can click on this lock right here just to lock it to the left and right. So here is where we can apply a 20 pixel padding and also an 80 pixel padding here at the bottom. And we have everything laid out perfectly. Now the last thing we want to do here is duplicate this content, so we can just use the copy and paste shortcuts here just to paste this 3 times, so you can see how it's pasted 3 times here below. And then remember how I said we wanted to use the auto height here for this box. I'm going to hit escape once just to select the containing box, and now we can change this height to auto, which is going to grow to make way for all of the elements inside of it. But I don't like the direction of these boxes. I want it to flow from left to right and then down. So if it's flowing down like this, or if we come over here, we can go right to the bottom here. We can change the direction from left to right. We can change that here. And you'll notice if I zoom out, it only shows 2 of these boxes. If I select this box here, there are actually more boxes that are flowing off the page. So this can be useful if you want to select the containing box here and set this overflow to scroll. And that way you can kind of scroll through your portfolio items here, or you can set the overflow to hidden where it just doesn't show. They don't know anything's being overflowed. But in my case, I want the overflow to be set to visible. And instead of having these fly off the page, I can change the direction here from left to right and then down. So it's going to drop down as it doesn't have any more room off the page. So now we can show how these are being displayed with 2 columns and 2 rows. We'll jump back up to 100% here, and let's just start to add some images now to these sections. So one thing we could do if we wanted to add some images here is we can select the image itself and then open up our settings drawer if it's not open already, and we can select this little image thumbnail. And we have access to lots of photos and collections that are royalty free. So if we wanted to add a portfolio item for, let's say, a business card, we can just search for business card here, and we can find something that we can add right here into our design. But because this is our portfolio, we want to add our assets inside. So we want to use the upload feature. So again, I'll select this image thumbnail and I'll choose upload here. Now we have access to a few assets that I've designed here for some clients. So in this case, I designed a business card for a client Discgenics. So I can select that, have that upload, and then I can click and enable that here in this photo. Then I'm just going to name this Discgenics business card, and then we can change this to graphic design. And we have our first portfolio item established. So going down the list here, we can do the same thing, and instead of just uploading one element now, I can just hold down Shift and select all of my files and choose Open. That way it's going to open them right here and contain them, and then I can apply those wherever I'd like. So in this case, for software design, I want to apply that. I'm going to add a new one here, UX design as well, and then I like to do a little bit of photography, so I'm going to change this here. So now what's left to do is just change the text here, so I'm going to do that really quick. So now let's review everything we've done up to this point. At any point that you reach a milestone, you can come over here to the top right and click Live Preview. This is where you can click Start and get a live share of what this is going to look like. So I'm going to click on this URL. It'll open this up in a new tab. And this is where we can see our navigation, we can see our elements here, and we can resize our browser. I'm just going to break this down here and then resize this just to see how it looks here with the different screen sizes. Now you'll notice we didn't adapt our design to the smaller viewports yet. We'll do that later so we can see that this is a little bit tight, and that's where we'd want to break this down to one column, for example. So now let's jump back into the editor. And if we go into our template here, there's just a few more elements we want to design. So we want to design one more box here that has a little snippet about ourselves, a little get in touch link, as well as some social links. And then we want to finish off with a footer. So let's go ahead and add this section here. And one thing that's nice, if we jump back, we can actually duplicate a section right here because it has some of the similar styling. So I can take this whole box right here. We're going to use the copy and paste keyboard shortcuts. And here I can drag this down to rearrange this in position, but I can also open up my layers panel right here. And let's collapse these elements here just to show where things lay. And I'm going to just drag this right here below to show what that looks like. Now in this case I want to position things a little bit differently, so I actually want to select this content here and just pin this right here to the left. So now going back to our template here, we have 3 blocks of text here, so we can go back here and I'm just going to select this. We'll hit the copy keyboard shortcut and then paste. So now we have these 3 pieces, and then I'm going to select the box that contains everything. And again, I want to change the height to auto to fit everything. And then in this case, we have an 80 pixel padding here at the bottom. I also want to apply that to the top as well. And I'm going to change this text here to get in touch. Let's change the size here to 32 pixels. And then I want to add a little bit of a margin just to apply some spacing. So let's say 30 pixels right here. Or let's do 40, so whatever spacing you feel like you like. And then here we're going to have our social link. So in this case, I want to make this, let's say 20 pixels. And we'll add a 40 pixel margin before get in touch. And then here's where we're going to say Twitter. Add 20 pixel margin. And then we'll copy and paste that twice. And here we'll say Instagram and dribble. And if at any time you want to play with the spacing, you can always hold down Shift to select multiple elements here. If we want the spacing to be anything different, we can change those universally, having them selected. And I'll just try 16 pixels. I think that looks a little bit better. Now I want to add a little blurb about myself, so I'm going to do that here. And in this case, you'll notice when I go into the box settings here, we have 540 pixels. I want to change that here. So let's do 780. Let's try that out. Maybe 760. If you don't want to type in the numbers, we can just select the box itself and just see where the text wraps the best. I like that. I think that's good. And now coming back into our template, we want to recreate this footer. So I'm just going to copy this text here. This is very simple to do. You should be able to do this very quickly by now, but I'm just going to hit escape once. So we're going to select this box here, click to add a new box, which will add it just below. We'll stretch that out, make the fill white, and then just add some text inside of there where we paste in the 2021 Studio All Rights Reserved. So you could change this here to say Studio or Caleb Kingston. You can change that if you'd like. So here I'm just going to make this 14 and maybe make it just a little bit gray. Something like that. So let's zoom out to 50% here just so we can see an overall view of what our first page looks like. It's looking really good. Now the next page we're going to create is the About page. This will be very quick because we've already created some styling here that we can reuse. So let's jump back up to 100% here, and then we can just choose either duplicate if we want to start off from this page, or add new page. And in this case, I'll just add a new blank page. We're going to add this page, and then we can rename this again. We'll name this About, and the path will also be About. Now let's jump into our design, and we can reuse some symbols that we've created in the first page. So if we expand our Add Elements panel here, we have some categories here to add boxes, images, uploads, but we want to choose symbols here where we've added our navigation. We can drag and drop right here and reuse that. Now we can also copy and paste elements between pages. So if I go back and hover over this About page, I can jump to our Works. And I'm going to scroll down here because I want to reuse this. So I'm going to select this whole box, use Command-C or Control-C to copy, and then we'll go into our About, and this is where we can paste this right below the navigation. Now, even though we copied and pasted, if we go into our template here, you can see there's a little bit of a difference if we go into About. It's just a little bit different in how things are spaced. And that's okay. We can jump right in here, back in here, and in this box right here, we're just going to set some padding. So in this case, maybe we want 200 pixel padding. And even on the inside, if we click this lock right here, we might want 100 pixels on both sides, or 200 pixels on both sides. Then we'll select these text elements right here, just give it a 16 pixel margin. And now we want to add an image to this right side. So before we do that, again, because all of these are contained inside of this box here, we want to hold down Shift and select all of these text elements right here. And again, right click and group this selection. Make sure everything's again aligned to the left here. And then let's add an image here to this right side. So I can just drag in a new image right here. And to change how things are aligned, I'm going to hit escape once to select the box here. And then we want things to sit on either end right inside of the padding. So here's where I can reshape things just to add my image. So let's say we want to do like a 360 by 240. Let's just start with that for the image size. And play around with the styling, the sizes, make sure that everything fits your taste here. So I'm just going to change this actually to 32 pixels right here. We'll change this to 28. I think I like that a little bit better. And then we can also notice that everything's here is aligned here to the center. We can align the image to the top right here, center or bottom. So you can play around with that to see how you like that. But now I'm going to add an image of myself. With the settings drawer open, I can select this image icon and we'll upload a new photo. I have an image of myself here. I can open. And now let's go ahead and select that to add into our portfolio. The last thing I want to do is add a footer, so I can go into my symbols panel, and you'll notice that I don't have the footer symbol, so that's okay because I can always go right into the page navigation, jump back into Works, and we'll turn this into a symbol so we can reuse it. So I'm going to select this, right click, create symbol, we'll name this footer, and click create. We can go back into About now, scroll up to our page, and we'll just drag and drop this footer now. Now our About page is fully created. The last thing we're going to create is the contact page. And in this case, I can actually duplicate the About page. So I'll choose Duplicate this time. And now I'm going to name this Contact. Same thing with the path. I'll name this Contact. And the reason why I'm changing this and duplicating it to be the contact page is if we go into our template here, we have the About and the Contact, and the spacing is similar here. So we can save ourselves from doing a lot of work by duplicating, because now we can go back into here. We can just remove the image now. We have the header, the footer, and this contact information. And in this case, I'm just going to copy and paste this text. If you have any questions or requests, feel free to contact me using the form below. I will reply within 1 week. So now we can jump into this design here. We can just delete the extra elements that we don't need anymore. So here I'm just going to delete this element, and then inside of here I'll just delete these different text elements. And then here's where we want to change the text. So I'm just going to paste in that new text if you have any questions or requests. And we'll go ahead and add the spacing here. Feel free to contact me using the form below. I will reply within 1 week. And then having this text box still selected, we can expand our Add Elements panel right here. And we have different categories of elements, but in this case, I want to add a form. So this is where I'm going to just drag and drop a form right below this text. And you'll notice it's centering everything now, so I can just hit Escape to back up once into this box. And I'm going to choose here to align things to the left. I think I like that a little bit better. We'll close the Add panel. And there's some margin that comes with this form that I actually don't need in this case. So I can select the form itself, and I'll remove the margin by just clicking and dragging until that reaches 0. And then you can change any amount of styling that you want here. So if you want, you can double click out of these text elements to restyle them, or you can go right into the Layers panel here, which might be a little bit easier sometimes to select. So I'm going to expand this div right here and select this text. We'll make this Playfair Display. Same thing with this email div. We'll select this text here, Playfair Display, and then this div right below will do the same thing, Playfair Display. Now you can style anything you want as far as the boxes. You can change the stroke width and color and all of that here. I happen to like how it's designed here, so I'm just going to leave that. But if I want to restyle this button here, you can see this button is 100% width of its container. In this case, I want to just change this to auto, which will just collapse down and hug the contents inside. So just this send text, for example. And then for the padding, let's go ahead and unlock this and just lock it to the left and right. And I like to apply just a 30 pixel padding just to the left and right, just to give it a little bit more spacing. And then in this case, I want the radius to be 0 and not 4, just to give it nice sharp corners. The last thing we want to do is select the entire form here in the Layers panel. And then we have some properties here we can change. So I can change the form name to Contact Form. Redirect page, you can actually create a thank you page if you want. In this case, I don't have one. And then the recipient settings, we can select that here. It'll jump us into the contact form options. And this is where we can activate our contact form. And we'll give a notification email here. And then you can change the notification message title. I like what we have here, so I'm just going to leave that blank. You can also link this to a Google Sheets. If you want to collect the form inputs and tie that to Google Sheets, you can do that here. But for my options, I just want this to be sent to my email. If you go to all settings here, if you have multiple forms, you can actually set a universal notification email here if you'd like, but I do have that set here at the contact form level. So now we can click away and then go right back to the design editor here. And now if we do visit that contact page and we choose live preview, we can just test this out now to see how it's going to function. So here I can add my name. And then we'll go ahead and click I agree to the privacy policy and click send. Now it shows succeeded to submit the form. And if we go back into the editor here, we can actually hover right over the name of our project here, jump into forms, and we will see that we have one form request already submitted. So we can jump into the pages here. We can see works, about, and contact. So we can see what that all looks like here as we scroll down. And in just this short time, we've created these 3 pages that we can see all of the layout and content. And in the third part of the series, we're going to link everything up, adapt our elements to adapt to smaller screen sizes, and we'll also apply some SEO settings before we publish our website.